the fall of 1934, John Michener arrived early at the downtown YMCA for a meeting of the Gridiron Club. While waiting for the others to arrive, John leafed through a magazine and found an article about credit unions. The story of credit unions appealed to him, and so began his journey of pioneering the credit union movement in Kansas. That same year, John helped organize the Trade Association for Kansas Credit Unions and served as its president for 23 years. In 1935, he organized Wichita City Teachers Credit Union, now Credit Union of America. Bob Thurman, CEO of Credit Union of America, recalls his time with John.
So John was a mentor to me and a friend to me. And so I learned a lot from John, and I found him to be a person who was very compassionate toward the individual member, but he was also very wise when it came to the business of the credit union.
Wichita City Teachers Credit Union was headquartered in a small room in East High School where John was the head of the science department. Both the credit union and the league records and files were held in that room. John made sure his members were taken care of, even if it meant taking matters into his own hands.
Someone needed a loan, came in to see him in the morning and needed a loan, and he didn't have the money. The credit union didn't have enough money to make the loan for like less than $100. And so he told the person to come back, and so during lunch, the credit union was being run out of East High School in Wichita, and so John went to the cafeteria during lunch hour and asked every teacher in there to make a deposit so he'd have enough money to make this loan, and he gathered up enough money so the individual could come back that day and get his loan, and everything was great.
John supported credit unions as a volunteer and was instrumental in organizing what is now Mid-American Credit Union and Kansas Corporate Credit Union. He was editor of the Kansas Credit Union News, and throughout his career made lasting contributions as a supporter of the cooperative credit union movement.
Well, like I said, I think the biggest lesson I learned from John was kind of the compassion for the individual member, and at the same time the need to run the credit union in a business-like manner for the betterment of the entire membership.
In 1982, the Kansas Credit Union Association named its Volunteer of the Year award after John M. Michener and awarded him as the first Volunteer of the Year in Kansas. Today, more than 30 credit union volunteers have been the recipient of this distinguished award. Throughout his life, Henry Peterson has always embraced the cooperative spirit. He came to the United States in 1904 from Denmark and settled north of Dodge City.
He was actually born in Denmark, which meant that he had a natural affinity for co-ops. Danish people are greatly into that.
Henry was operating a farm a few miles north of town when the postmaster drove to the farm and asked Henry to take the post office civil service test for the position of federal credit union investigator.
The position that was open was amazing. It was called the Junior Investigator of Credit Unions at the federal level. And my father had never heard of a credit union, but it was a co-op for credit, and it sounded like a good idea to him. He didn't think he'd pass that because he only had an 8th grade education, but he was chosen, and he was one of the first 13 organizers. That's all there was to the Federal Bureau of Credit Unions at that time.
Henry found great satisfaction in helping to organize and promote the credit union movement in Kansas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Colorado, the 4 states that comprised his first working territory. Henry had a passion for helping people. As a result, he helped organize over 200 credit unions in these 4 states. Henry also helped organize the Credit Union Trade Association in Kansas and was one of the founders of the Credit Union of Dodge City.
Henry Peterson was so instrumental in actually bringing our credit union of Dodge City to the surface. He was one of the organizers and part of the foundation of people that started our credit union. I think that probably Henry Peterson was instrumental in forming so many good credit unions in southwest Kansas and other parts of this state. We need to give him recognition for all the things that he did that helped bring credit unions to the surface here in our area.
In 1982, the Kansas Credit Union Association named its Professional of the Year award after Henry Peterson and awarded him as the first Professional of the Year in Kansas. Today, more than 30 credit union professionals have been the recipient of this distinguished award.
He had an absolute passion about credit unions and what they could do. He believed in co-ops and credit unions, and it was a way of life for him. He said, you know, the slogan at that time for credit unions was not for profit, not for charity, but for service. And he really thought that was the way you should live your life, and I think he tried to.